some shrapnel. To the head.
Your persona, experiences, triumphs, and defeats are nothing but byproducts. The real objective was ensuring that we could generate and manipulate them. It's taken a lot of time and money, but it was well worth it considering the results.
Now do you remember who you are, what you were meant to do,
Who am I really?
A lot of events through the timeline of the series of MGS has been predetermined. The course of real situations, you could say, manipulated and shaped by those who controls tomorrow's history.
You've written your own history. You're your own man. I'm Big Boss, and you are too.
As established, Metal Gear Solid 2 dives deep into virtual reality that creates these simulated environments based off past events through Patriot data gathered over the years and stored back inside the AI. Mostly all of Big Boss's and Solid Snake's mission successes.
Your persona, experiences, triumphs, and defeats are nothing but byproducts.
You could say I've made another snake.
V has come to.
MGS1 and by extension MGS2 demonstrates the Patriot's control of its subjects by shaping their minds, not just through half-truths and misinformation, but virtual reality, all to ultimately control the public through controlled presentation.
The S3 is a system for controlling human will and consciousness.
They regulate the country's various interests through controlled presentation.
It is a method, a protocol that created a circumstance that made you what you are.
It was all an illusion? Everything I've done so far?
Profoundly, it's not just here that makes you question reality of what was truly real. I like to think that the origin of Metal Gear way back in Operation Snake Eater is where it fundamentally began. But it's an MGS5 where we see these systems really take off. There's something about Ground Zeroes that feels awfully connected to MGS2 when you put them both in comparison. That perhaps the events as we saw them in Camp X-Ray, the real-world Guantanamo Bay, may just have been an early Patriots AI training kernel.
V has come too.
As we know, Venom Snake undergoes a form of MK-Ultra mind control in a semi-conscious induced coma, where his handlers, like Ocelot, using means of CIA technology and means to implant memories and experiences in his mind, making him akin to Big Boss, ultimately a legendary mercenary personified.
Now go! Let the legend come back to life.
I've completed 300 missions in VR. I feel like some kind of legendary mercenary.
Venom Snake undergoes a form of mind control or image training, just like Raiden, who experiences the same thing, albeit in an advanced form of VR.
The VR training you underwent is the best training program there is. There is no reason to be apprehensive. Be confident. Do you understand?
So you're saying that VR training is some kind of mind control?
I see. You're not sure what's fact and what's fantasy caused by the coma.
This includes big missions around Solid Snake's exploits, yet is consciously aware of these experiences and hasn't had his identity changed surgically to match an appearance like Venom Snake, who was made not just to believe his new persona, but to look like Big Boss himself.
He'll act as the new Big Boss, and the act just isn't for Cypher. He'll be your face on the world stage.
Same applies to Jack, who at first fully adopts the alias Solid Snake before being given the codename Raiden, a name on a set of dog tags that doesn't match really who he is. The identity the player forges is no different to the Patriots.
Dog tags.
And by the way, Snake, we're changing your code name for all following communication.
What's wrong with Snake?
Just a precaution. You are now designated Raiden.
This one, he'll take your place. From here on, he's Snake. He believes it too.
The two share a similarity, just like including anyone else involved in the Patriots' orbit, including Solid Snake. They're all involved in Cypher's game. Venom is tasked to eliminate a threat to the Patriots just as Raiden is. And even before Raiden, if you go back to MGS 1, Solid Snake was used as a vector to spread fox dye to take out Liquid, a threat to the Patriot system.
Will it be Solidus, the Patriot's creation, or you, Solidus's creation? Our beloved monsters, enjoy yourselves.
Unless we stop him, he'll go down in history a conquering victor. We can't let that happen. Wipe him out. Don't leave any trace of his existence.
The common notion is the fandom that, of course, that the VR tech that was around possibly didn't exist like it did in MGS 2 during MGS 5. However, after some deep thinking, I came to realise why not. This is a Metal Gear game we're talking about here, and stealth camo and other crazy tech existed way back in the timeline. There's room for plausibility. Ground Zeroes could indeed be a simulation, but brought together through early mind control techniques, opposed to technology, a machine that perhaps hooks you up to a virtual reality system. This is what MGS doesn't really make quite clear. However, in the digital graphic novel, it's noted that it's an advanced kind of machine that you're plugged into, as we see with Raiden, who explains where you can feel, smell, every sensation is felt, not much different from what we call reality.
There's pain sensation in VR and even a sense of reality and urgency. The only difference is it isn't actually happening.
Solid Snake has already simulated many VR events, and who knows how many beforehand. This includes the famous exploits in Shadow Moses, in the variety modes before he actually undertook the real mission itself.
It's Snake. I'm in front of the disposal facility.
Excellent, Snake. Age hasn't slowed you down one bit.
Thanks to the VR training I did on board the Discovery.
Given the right situation, the right story, anyone can be shaped into Snake.
Kept you waiting, huh?
An instant creation of genius. Excellent, Snake. Age hasn't slowed you down one bit.
Excellent, Snake. Age hasn't slowed you down one bit.
Interestingly, Raiden simulates a VR mission as Solid Snake on the tanker and plays a version of events not considered entirely accurate to the events that the actual Solid Snake experienced.
I've gone through VR training of the tanker mission before.
Yeah? Well, I doubt it accurately simulates the events of that mission.
The same connection fits to Ground Zeroes. Whilst Venom Snake was in a semi-coma state, perhaps he was under some kind of specialised Patriot AI early VR prototype, which could have been used over his vision that his brain collected as real events, are in actuality partially false, engineered out by the Patriots, like Raiden's experiences on the tanker.
That tanker accident that happened over there 2 years ago, the tanker sank and...
I know. I went through it in VR training. The tanker didn't sink because of Snake, though.
Raiden, VR training does not exactly simulate everything with absolute fidelity. You went through VR training, but it is not as if the simulation is faithful to every fact. It changes people.
Ground Zeroes is full of contradictions, not matching preconceived statements of events and characters in prior entries, including certain loopholes in the game that point to something more sinister. All, of course, they point to some of the events not being entirely correct, is the point I'm trying to make. As the Patriots explained, the VR changes people. It's not accurate to real events. In this simulation, Miller implies that they can't believe they bought that cover story. Yet, Peace Walker tells us different. Accidental? I think not. The Patriots, or Ocelot, needed to reinforce the idea to Venom that Miller was indeed an ally rather than a traitor.
Rain was coming down just as hard to do with that boss. I only want peace for my country.
Plus and the Professor. I knew who they really were all along.
'Cause
I used them.
I suppose you were the one that brought them to Columbia in the first place, huh?
Guilty as charged.
You'll have to join up with Miller. Build that private army of yours one more time. It's your only chance.
This also includes the game's mechanics in Kojima's meta-awareness, to blend both the video game as just a game into a part of the narrative. We question that, and ironically, we're simulating a video game in where simulations unfold. For example, in MGS 5, the game allows you to mark enemies with the intel scope, and in doing so acts like a video game simulation, one that comments on itself and towards the player, in terms of giving them instructions and so forth.
Take a good look at the enemy through your binoculars, and you can mark him. Marked enemies can be sensed when nearby, even if there's a wall between you and them. But it only works if you stop and take the time to focus your attention.
Instead of a typical radar, ironically, controlled by the Patriots in MGS 1 and 2, since most of the environments were designed by them.
The bright dot in the middle is you, Raiden. The red dots are your enemies, and the blue cone shape represents their field of vision. We used Shadow Moses as a paradigm for the exercise.
I wonder if you would have preferred a fantasy setting.
Am I correct in assuming you also know that the Big Shell's a front for the project?
You mean, did I know that the Big Shell, a fully functional environmental cleanup facility, was designed to camouflage Arsenal gear? Yeah, I did.
MGS 5 uses from MGS 4, or rather MGO2, the latest entry in the timeline, an early virtual SOP system that allows the user to mark enemies in real time and their exact location. Whilst most certainly just a gameplay function, still fits within the simulation idea of the Patriot's surveillance systems that would later connect through people's nanomachines, that would allow this virtual SOP to someday become integrated into real living people.
You've got these system nanomachines in you too.
Of course. Our unit plays by the rules, same as everybody else. It was creepy at first, knowing you're being watched 24/7, but I've gotten used to it. It gives us a lot of advantages in the field too. We get a clearer picture of what's going on around us, so there's less confusion during missions.
MGS 5 Ground Zeroes as a simulation seems very much like a Patriot training kernel, which is a program designed to aid and train its subjects into legendary mercenaries. The Genome Soldiers reinforce the point that I make who underwent this VR training. As explained by Ocelot in the Truth Tapes, Venom Snake has completed nearly every mission Big Boss has done on record, and shares all of his knowledge.
He's experienced all your missions on record and shares all your knowledge and experience to make him believe that he is the one true Big Boss. No one around him will doubt that he's the Big Boss they know.
Commencing virtuous mission.
This isn't too different from Raiden, who undergoes missions in the image of Solid Snake. The now greatest soldier of the generation who defeated Big Boss becomes the successor for these simulations, who, no doubt like before, possibly simulated his own father's missions. Raiden gains Solid Snake's skills in his likeness. He calls back to when Big Boss says at the end of MGS 4, given on the right circumstances and conditions, somebody could be made to play a specific role, act like someone else.
Under certain conditions, someone can be made to play a specific role, act like someone else.
Your role, that is, mission, is to infiltrate the structure and disarm the terrorists.
My role?
And Ocelot in MGS 5 explains that Venom Snake truly believes that he is the real Big Boss, and that he is specialised in manipulating the past and events, as later showcased in MGS 2. When the truth is revealed, Ocelot speaks of how the entire Big Shell event was orchestrated and that anybody in the right circumstances could be shaped into Snake. The point all fits together neatly.
You're good at this kind of thing. The best. I need you on this.
The name's Ocelot.
Big Boss, you know who I am. A certain man gave me a job to do.
It's nothing new in my line of work. Manipulating memories, the past.
You're all nothing but pawns placed to create the perfect simulation.
MGS5 and Venom Snake being the subject feels like the origin to how the Patriots perfected these simulations through collected data or pages of Big Bosses and the people around him in many missions and scenarios to make it possible. It's widely believed in the fandom that Operation Snake Eater was partly simulation. The real mission still happened, however the data of the mission was later implemented into a simulation to create the perfect soldier. That being the virtual mission rather than the virtuous mission.
Jack, I've got some important news. The head of the CIA has finally given us the green light for the virtuous mission.
Virtual mission?
No, the virtuous mission. The future of our Fox unit depends on it.
However, it's theorized that if Venom had experienced this mission, especially the remake, the name alone of the retake of MGS3 is interesting. Delta represents a change or difference in a quantity, which alone speaks volumes in the context if we relate this to Venom Snake. Flipping the delta symbol almost mirrors a V, which means direction of the steepest change. This change being the transformation of Venom becoming to this change or difference, with ultimately without changing structure. He and Big Boss are two sides of the same coin.
Spirit and body are like two sides of a single coin. They're the same thing. I can't teach you how to think. You'll just have to figure it out for yourself.
MGS5 subtly in particular shows these inversions. It's flipped, or rather mirrored, but still represents the same thing. Come to think of it, MGS3 almost feels like an over-representation of the legend of Big Boss. This includes the twin snakes, which I believe is to be an interpretation of events given on how exaggerated it really is. Altogether in the context of what Eva implies, that the stories Zero disseminated to the masses were fabrications or even outright lies. Snake is the cultural icon, the one Zero created, shaped through experiences turned into simulation that doesn't accurately depict the real mission.
Zero elevated Big Boss, the hero who saved the world, to the status of an idol. The truth behind Big Boss became riddled with exaggeration, misrepresentation, and outright lies.
Many indications show a form of image training. The real events of Ground Zeroes, as such, seems to be distorted in truth. The side missions known as Pseudo-history is what misrepresents or distorts the historical records, presenting unsubstantiated mythical or biased claims as established fact. A lot of what we see in this experience is akin to MGS2, a set of ready-made truths. Some information is factual in areas, but is fragmented in others.
With the newly created system, they can fully regulate digital information. High-level information can be categorized in stages, given clearance levels, and deleted as necessary, never to be seen by the public. By deleting such information, the Patriots can shape the course of history as they see fit.
It could just be a Patriot ploy that tells us it's not factual. Interestingly, in some of these side missions harbours interesting information upon rescuing a certain POW. That explains the Patriots' goals, later confirmed through the investigation of Zero's manifestations in the truth tapes.
They're trying to create some kind of human network without borders. Sorry, that's all I know.
Using humans alone won't be enough. An electronic network will span the globe, and our enemies will blend right into it.
That's if you believe any of these tapes to be real instead of Venom's interpretations. Yet it all speaks of Kojima's language of misleading the audience and trying to put the pieces together. These simulated side missions feel like preparation for Venom's true mission. Rescuing Hideo Kojima mirrors Kaz's rescue in Afghanistan, who ironically speaks the same words.
What took you so long?
What took you so long?
or destroying the anti-aircraft equipment mirrors destroying Soviet communications. Eliminate the renegade threat mirrors assassination and capture missions akin to Red Brass. This all clearly closely resembles the VR training kernel in MGS 1 and 2, all preparation for the Patriots' agendas later in the timeline. Both Snake and mostly Raiden comment on their familiarities as their virtual surroundings profoundly matches the backdrop the Patriots chose for them.
Colonel, I remember this place.
Of course you do. This is level 1 from the VR missions.
You're right. I see it now.
You may not have field experience, but you've been trained in the hyper-reality of simulated combat.
I feel like I know this terrain. Wasn't it in the VR training?
Nikita weapon mode, level 4. Do you recognize it?
Oh, so that was another rehearsal for this mission.
No, a simulation. Not the same thing as a rehearsal. Leverage the experience from your VR training, Raiden.
When taking this into account, in the origins of the simulations also fits perfectly with Zero's plan to mold Venom Snake into his hero, who would place Venom in a presentation aligned with his agendas, such as sending him to Afghanistan and Africa, all key places, in which he uses Ocelot, Kaz and Skullface purposely to play all of their roles.
The only reason we're having this conversation is because you still have a role to play. Which brings me to the next issue. What happens after he regains consciousness? When Snake wakes up, and he will, he'll need your help again. So when he does, I promise you'll be the first to know. The code phrase will be, V has come to.
For that, I'll keep playing my role.
Miller was in contact with Cypher 9 years ago.
Skullface becomes like Solidus, who opposes Patriot rule and needs to be eliminated. Ocelot acts like the handler of the series, being a Patriot member himself. Zero used Ocelot's intellect in psychological warfare to sustain the simulation into effect. He convinces Venom of a false sense of reality, just as he does to others in MGS 2.
Everything you've done here has been scripted. A little exercise set up by us. Exercise?
Everyone plays out their allotted part, turning out a perfect performance in the Patriots' orchestration. Just like Kaz, who I believe plays his role until the mission's over. The truth tapes suggest that Kaz was more than briefed on Zero's plans and likely discovered the truth of Venom being a body double at least once he arrived at Mother Base or beforehand. We know Kaz wasn't completely blind, and as we're told, he saw Venom Snake in Colombia after the crash with the shrapnel in his head. He was just playing out his role.
Well, he stabilized, but it took too long. He's in a coma.
What about him?
He took some shrapnel to the head.
Same goes for every other character in the series almost, like Olga to protect her child, or Dead Cell's hatred, Ames as a planted Patriot agent, Emma, who by proxy, like Solid Snake, responsible for handling virtual versions of Foxdie in the case of GW, which fell into the wrong hands. The point being that nearly everyone always has a role to play in the series is almost certainly acting under the Patriots' orders. Just like Raiden's warm-ups throughout The Big Shell is no different to Ocelot tasking Venom to rescue Kaz to shape Venom into a legend and make the experience more believable.
After 9 years on ice, the solo infiltration of the Soviet main ground forces should be the perfect warm-up.
What establishes these forms of simulation, or VR, began in Peace Walker with the rise of the electronic intelligence era, with computers and systems capable of analysing real-time data, with Donald Anderson and Strangelove, who played a huge role in DARPA, which is central to AI development and military simulation systems and information warfare, all of which was tasked by Zero to create an AI network due to gradually succumbing to Skullface's parasites.
The idea to have an AI act for Zero came about in '74, when the data from the mammal pod penetrated NORAD. Clearly an AI couldn't be allowed to make its own decisions. So they would take away its ability to act, and instead create a specialized system in which the AI, bound by specific rules, filters the massive amounts of data it collects before passing it on to people, subtly guiding their decision-making. A system of the people, by the people, for the people. So they began researching how to do it. DARPA apparently brought Strangelove on board to head it up. She was forced out after a certain incident. The direction of the project and any trace of her existence was scrubbed after her departure. Before Zero lost consciousness as his condition worsened, he left instructions for Anderson.
It is safe to assume that with these measures in place, that the Patriots had several other projects, including virtual reality technology. It's not explicitly stated, for example, on how Ocelot, as Venom's handler, managed to successfully implant training of all Big Boss's knowledge, although going off non-fiction when looking into the CIA's methods of MKUltra, it's definitely more than possible.
The human brain is capable of many illusions, of pain, of the future.
Can you hear me? Are you having difficulty speaking?
When you take a mentality and fix it in a solid shape, put it out there in the hands of people, it can only begin to decay.
Venom awakes with gaps, one that over time, like fragments, he eventually decodes to his former self. But ultimately, from there, everything around him points in one direction. Ocelot talks to him like he is Big Boss, the soldiers treat him like no one else but the boss, the missions demand he acts like Big Boss, there's no contradictions anywhere to reinforce it, so the mind doesn't fight it, it settles directly into it. Even if you've had basic forms of immersive simulation or early VR, controlled visuals and audio fed directly while someone's drifting in and out of consciousness, you could perhaps reinforce that identity even harder. Not by uploading the skills, but by making experiences feel lived. Training and memories of such, instincts that they blur together. If the brain can't tell where one ends and one other begins is the idea. It's about maintaining the illusion before it wears off.
It was all an illusion? Everything I've done so far?
Raiden.
Snake, what's happening around here?
To me, it seems possible Venom could have been hooked to an early format of VR that Raiden underwent. The Patriots' understanding of genetics gave them the blueprints, if you will, to interfere with people's minds, as later showcased in the timeline with SOP.
What matters now is the genetics technology behind that work. With genetics, the clumsiness in targeting an entire race isn't an issue. We can target specific individuals. People need an appropriate context for their lives. A context that's stimulating without being destructive.
What we propose to do is not to control content, but to create context.
Venom, as told by the Doctor, that the shrapnel is pressing against his cerebral cortex, which may cause him to see things not as they really are.
They are located near your heart and in your skull. Look at this. The fragments are lodged deep within your cerebral cortex. We couldn't give you an MRI, the metal, you see. But even if we were to extract it, you would most likely suffer a brain hemorrhage. Mental and physical impairment are unavoidable.
This information closely resembles the implanted nanomachines the Patriots purposely placed in Raiden's cerebral cortex.
You know this fellow? You remember me, don't you? You've grown. High concentration of cerebral implants. Have they altered your memory, too?
It's nothing new in my line of work. Manipulating memories.
Several times in MGS 5, we see moments that clearly aren't real, or rather distorted, such as a big giant whale, and information that's not reliable, such as Ishmael, an inner reflection of Venom's psyche, or rather the third man syndrome. He appears just as he disappears. He gets killed and comes back. He doesn't shoot until you do.
Who are you? Who am I? You're talking to yourself.
Hurry up and get with the program.
Even Ocelot and Kaz's appearances at some points as well when talking to Paz in the side objectives is just a figment of Snake's broken mind.
I was in love, or thought I was, with someone who didn't exist. I was trying to be someone I wasn't by loving what wasn't real. I don't know who you really are. The person I knew isn't real. She's not the woman I'm talking to right now.
It is no mystery now. I am just a phantom. A fragment of the mind you have lost.
In a sense, the deception was my own, not theirs.
Same applies to Raiden because the nanomachines are manipulating his perception. The AI convinced him he was speaking to the real Colonel Campbell and Rose, only to be revealed he was not.
What the hell does this mean?
I think it means you've been talking to an AI.
That's impossible.
The Colonel probably isn't GW per se. GW was most likely stimulating cortical activity in the dormant part of your brain through signal manipulation of your own nanomachines. The Colonel is, in part, your own creation, cobbled together from expectations and experience.
Once the programming breaks down, after the virus is uploaded into the system in Arsenal gear, is most certainly not as real as it appears. Random computerized data floats in the air, and by the time Raiden fights the rear unit atop of Arsenal gear, he's fighting on a virtual platform.
A simulated solid snake shaped by VR regimen. Sound like someone you know, Jack? I'm sorry to see you reduced to one of the Patriots' puppets.
This all stops when the fragments connect. Something similar occurs with the simulation of Ground Zeroes. The simulation starts to distort up until it corrects itself. So many clues indicate in Camp Omega that the Patriots were testing early components of the S3. Two targets in this simulation speak of a phantom to come. More than certainly rogue elements of this experience flooding into Venom Snake's subconscious mind, given on what he's hearing whilst he's semi-awake.
You could say, I've made another snake.
Major?
I'm not talking about the children. A mental copy. His phantom, if you like.
Kind of like when Raiden receives bizarre codec calls, goes outside of the steady narrative. Some of the most bizarre tapes and even Snake's shadow matching Venom's true identity. One he later rejects to take the position of Big Boss, opposed to Raiden, who succeeded Venom and rejects his identity and destroys the simulation and picks his own. Interestingly, looking back on the old Venom Snake X-ray artwork by Kyle Cooper, whilst mostly just promotional artwork, I believe has some kind of meaning. It looks like a digital holographic system where we can see Venom Snake's skeletal structure and around it a silhouette of Big Boss and his new self merged together. X-ray is a dual nod to the NATO phonetic pronunciation of the letter X and the use of capitalized X's in documents to represent unknown values or redacted, secret information. The little computer text at the bottom makes it questionable as well. This tied with Camp X-Ray seems connected somehow. The manual for Ground Zeroes is X-Ray themed, and the opening credits for the Phantom Pain have shown the same imagery, including some of the trailers as well. And the X-ray photos also have a strange connection to the MGS2 codec screens, when we see the skull underneath Campbell's face, hinting at this S3 AI malfunction.
Solidus's creation. Our beloved monsters. Enjoy yourselves.
Everything, as the Patriots explain, is a byproduct of experiences that shape their subjects, by ensuring they can manipulate them effectively, including breaking down identities or changing them altogether. They become redacted, that they started with Big Boss and the Liaison Vons Terribles, later with characters like Venom Snake, Raiden, who acts as a proxy to Solid Snake, then later becomes shaped into Grey Fox. The Beauty and the Beast become a combination of several bosses, but mostly Foxhound. The Patriots simulated the events way back since Operation Snake Eater, and even during the boss's mission when you considered how they was used. That they could manipulate others to change the course of history, and he who controls history controls the future, or rather the battlefield.
And he who controls the battlefield controls history.
Whenever it be through physical or virtual means, together the Patriots did create a virtual reality. The ambiguity of the series has left open rooms of interpretation and speculation. MGS2 was considered purely a VR experience. Raiden was trapped in. This could have been left open for that notion, yet MGS4 took away from that profound possibility that MGS2 was start to finish a virtual reality, and everyone in it apart from him. The MGS series often cross-references itself, whether it's characters repeating the same iconic lines or Easter eggs. Even the game running commentary on its own virtuality to break the fourth wall of the players experiencing a simulation within a simulation. It's ultimately Kojima showing that irony, yet this combined of course easily blurs the lines between games mechanics, or perhaps a hint to the whole experience being one big simulation. And yet the profound truth is that it is, at least from one holding the controller. After all, it is just a game.
Snake, take the power plant out. Set C4 explosives on 4 key points to destroy the structure. Snake, destroy the power plant's main turbine. It's located in the B1 floor of the plant.
Other entries in the series hint at this, including MGS Ghost Babel, that see Raiden under a VR reality that mimics the events of Outer Heaven, but it's not quite accurate. Just as we mentioned earlier, the Patriots were prepping him before the Big Shell incident was even yet to unfold. Same applies to Venom Snake, where the wheels were in motion. It's even hinted that Raiden simulated the events of 1995 in Outer Heaven, where he fights Venom Snake as Solid Snake, and by this understanding, this could mean that many of the events we've experienced perhaps could have been simulated in some shape or form. Of course, not through conventional means, but just through proxies of past events, a program. The S3 plan to ultimately control the public was already in effect way back in the timeline.
They did it again. In the end, they're no more than a program. All they can do is repeat the same pattern over and over again.
The Patriots controlled the flow of information, something Zero way back knew was an essential tool to control the perception of the public. The pawn needed to stay the pawn. The parts, as the Patriots explained, to show the effectiveness of their simulations, and if it proved capable, they could shape society. Like the party from George Orwell's novel 1984, where the people become loyal to the systems designed to keep them obedient and enslaved. MGS is truly a fascinating series with so many wonderful theories. Even beyond the established story, the series leaves room, I believe, intentionally to keep the fandom still connected to it. Yes, the narrative of MGS has holes and lacks in areas, and Kojima isn't the only great creative director the gaming industry has seen. However, his rhetorical devices in his games make storytelling worth talking about years later. Whenever the experiences we played were real or not, was never the point. It's what individually we've decided to take away from it. The irony of it is, as the player, we are virtually simulating the events of these legends, aside from the ones established or the ones we could only guess at. That is the metatextual brilliance of this series. It's ultimately up to you. With that being said, I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. Get in the comment section down below and tell me your thoughts, because I love to read some of your speculations. And please consider subscribing, because I'm aware there's a percentage of you who watch my content and still haven't subscribed. What are you doing? Be a part of the realest MGS community there is, and take care out there, guys, and until we meet again.
Who am I really? No one quite knows who or what they are. The memories you have and the role you were assigned are burdens you had to carry. It doesn't matter if they were real or not. That's never the point.